In this video, I'm going to be showing probably the first super warp of the run. In chambers 6 and 7 here, we're going to be doing a super warp up the back of the elevator here, and that skips the elevator ride, which I think skips around 7 seconds or more. So overall, the route is actually pretty difficult and pretty precise. We're going to be doing one vertical wall warp, then another, then a super warp, and then another vertical wall warp at the very end there. So I'll assume that you've preserved save glitch from chamber 5. You want to make your way over to this wall and place your save glitch portal over here before orange opens, so that way you have collision with the ground. Then you want to crouch and walk out of this wall until your crosshair begins to light up. That's how you know you're far enough away. Now, if you crouch, jump, and save load, you can do a regular vertical wall warp here, but you're just going to end up falling back down. What you can do is jump, crouch, and shoot, and then save load. Right, crouch, jump, shoot, save load. Those things. And then what will happen is that when you load, you will have collision with all this because the portal will have landed. Then you want to make your way to the back of the elevator. Now, technically, you don't actually need to move your portal here, because you can just, jump over here and then, kind of make your way back here. But it's a little bit inconvenient for what's going to happen next, because you're probably going to end up going a bit behind the blue portal, and it doesn't work out too well. What I prefer to do is to shoot a portal over here, and that will ensure that you don't end up going behind it. Now, one thing about this portal is that you don't want it to be too angled. If it's too angled, then you'll have collision with this geometry here, and you can jump, over it or go around it. It's a bit more convenient if the portal is not angled. So it actually doesn't matter how close it is to you, as long as it's not angled, then you won't have collision with that piece of geometry, and you can kind of just make your way over here. So what I like to do is just jump, and then as I'm jumping, shoot my portal so that it's not angled, and then continue making my way over here. Now we're going to do a second vertical wall warp, and the basic premise of this is very similar to the one we just did. So we're going to do the vertical wall warp, and then we're going to place a portal right over here, so that way we can land on top of this geometry over here. This vertical wall warp is actually really difficult to do, and it's one of the more precise parts of the route, if not the most precise part of the route. So what you're going to want to do is, let's see, that's actually replacement. So make your way back here, and then I'm going to try to describe where exactly I line myself up for this. So let's see, I'm going to disable this first. So the first thing is that there's this diagonal wall over here, and there's kind of this line that's at the end of that. So what I like to do is line myself up with that line, and then go a bit further out of bounds than that. This is pretty much where I stand, and I'll probably post coordinates as well or something like that. So you don't want to be too far out of the wall, because if you're too far out of the wall, what's going to end up happening is that when you place this portal, you are actually not inside of this wall, and that's kind of your reference. So if you are inside of this wall here that I'm aiming at right now, then when you place the portal, you should take damage and probably get teleported away a little bit. If you're too far away, then that will not happen, and so that means you're too far away. We want to vertical wall warp through this wall. If you're too far inbounds, that's no good either, because you want to place this blue portal so that it's as far away from you as possible, and it can be really difficult to do that if you're really, really close to the wall. So, this is roughly where I stand. So you want to aim at the furthest part of the wall away from you, don't aim too high, and then you're going to crouch and do the exact same inputs as before, so jump, shoot, and save load, but also hold W while all of that is going on. So let me try and demonstrate it here. So I actually messed it up there, and in this case I probably just messed up the exact order of my inputs. So the timing on these is really tight, and it's going to take a bit of practice before you get this to work. And then one thing that you also want to do is after you load, you want to hold S. So I'm just holding S here, and then ensure that I'll land on top of this piece of geometry that I showed before. So this is what I'm standing on right now, this piece of geometry. And I can actually animate exactly what happened here. So we did a vertical wall warp. Because we were holding W, we had speed in that direction, and this is kind of where we got teleported. So we got teleported, and then this is where we got placed, and then we kind of landed back up here by holding S. So now we can do the actual super warp. So the idea for this one is basically we're just going to line up in the correct spot, shoot a portal, and then that should warp us all the way up. So my lineup for this is I'm actually going to zoom in. So I crouch, and then I look straight down in this direction, and I line up my crosshair so that it's roughly lined up with the top of the blue portal. And so that's kind of what that looks like. Maybe that's a little bit too close, but something like that. So you don't want to be too close to this edge or this edge of the wall. You want to be a little bit closer to the center. So this is a bit too close to the edge. This is probably fine. And then you want to aim your crosshair and line it up, line up your position. And then you want to aim in this direction, aim straight down, and then just hold left click and turn your view until you get warped all the way up. Just like that. Now, what should happen is that you get warped up all the way up here on top of the elevator shaft. Let's see what I can do to demonstrate. So if you're too far away from the wall, then you probably won't get warped high enough. And if you're too far into the wall, oh, actually it worked that time. But usually if you're too far into the wall, then you'll actually get warped inbounds like that. And that's, you actually don't really want that because of what happens next, because we're going to try to catch ourselves, and you don't want to be too far inbounds so that you can catch yourself in this portal. Now, one very important thing here. If you reload here, make sure to jump. Just once is fine. And what that'll do is that'll line up your bounding boxes, and otherwise the trick won't quite be as reproducible as you might like it to be. So that's kind of what happens if I jump. If I don't jump, then you can see I actually get placed inbounds. But if I do jump, then you can see I get warped up all the way to the top. So jumping is very important. If you reload here, just make sure to jump at least once, or maybe just crouch and uncrouch, that's fine too. So as you get better at this, you'll actually know exactly which angle you want to shoot at right away, and you won't have to, like, you know, check all the angles slowly and carefully. You can just aim at the right spot, and you'll automatically get warped all the way up. Now, the next thing that you want to do is you want to catch yourself. And so what I like to do in this case is basically just to tap W and mouse click, and that should be enough to catch yourself here. So you usually will not be, like, sometimes you'll be at the exact correct distance away from the wall, so that when you place this portal, you will just land in it. But usually that won't be the case. So what I like to do is just tap W just as I shoot, and that should be enough, just like that, to put you, to make sure that you're caught here. Now, you do not want to wait too long before you shoot. So if you wait too long, then your portal is going to be quite a bit lower, and that basically means that you won't be able to do one of the routes. So there's two routes after this. You can go inbounds, or you could go to the top of the map here. And if your portal is too low like this, that probably means that you won't be able to go all the way up to the top. So just try and catch yourself up as high as you can. It's faster to do that anyway. So sort of like that. So I'll show the route where you go inbounds first. So you want to be relatively close to the blue portal. You basically just want to make sure that you're not too far away from it. And then just do a simple vertical wall warp. Not like that, but instead like that. And then make your way over to this block over here. And as long as you're standing on this block and your crosshair is basically aimed over this red chasm, you can aim as far right as the 1 to 3rd black line, and I think that should work just fine. And that's pretty much it as far as that route goes. The other route is a bit more complicated. And so what you want to do for that route is you actually want to get out as far of the blue portal as you possibly can. Now, obviously you want to make sure not to fall out of it, so I'll probably post coordinates or something like that. And then you want to jump and save load. Now, I actually mistimed that there. Now, what's very important here is that you save load right after you jump. If you don't do that, then you actually might not get warped all the way up here. So sometimes nothing will happen. In this case, I actually got my blue portal quite high, so it's pretty much always going to work. But you want to make sure that you save load right after you jump, and that will guarantee, or that'll ensure the highest success rate of getting all the way up here. So the next thing is to make our way to the elevator, and there's a couple of things you can do here. So the first thing I want to point out is that there's kind of some out of bounds funky geometry over here. So there's just a little bit of a step right here, so you step down and then step back up. Just a little tiny thing. And then the easy route is basically just make your way over to here and then save load clip down. If you save load clip down over here, then just make sure to go back and hit the trigger. And that's that. Now, the fastest route out of all of these is to do some hops and then save load clip as you're doing them, so that way, hopefully, you preserve your speed and actually end up going straight into the elevator. So let me try to demonstrate what that looks like. So I didn't quite get it there, but that's pretty close. Hopefully you kind of get the idea of what I'm going for there. So you want to do 1, 2, 3 hops and then start save loading. And I typically do, I think, around 7 or 8 save loads. And that should be able to get you into the elevator. Now, obviously you want to make sure that you aim in the sort of right direction when you do these hops. If you are too close to this center, like to the center here, then you actually might end up bonking your head onto this piece of geometry as your save load clipping down. And that's no good. It'll basically seem like you're mistiming your save load clips or something like that. Another thing with these save load timings is that you want them to be tick perfect. If you're too slow, then you actually will lose your speed, and that's no good. Now, one other thing that can sometimes happen is that you might not have quite enough speed to make it up onto this ledge. Now, in this case, it looks like I was... Oh no, it looks like I just barely have enough speed to do that. But sometimes you can actually do a standing hop off of this, whatever this is, and continue into the elevator. And sometimes there's nothing you can do, and you'll just end up falling down here no matter what. And so you can just do the backup, which is to stand on this block and do this jump. And here's an example of the full execution of the route.